money was just coming in and going out. Literally, I was living paycheck to paycheck. My job, I was not feeling, but I couldn't leave. I had no way to leave. Zero. I was like, you're stuck. You have to work because you don't have any savings. You don't have anything. Like, wow, you spend a lot of money eating out. Like a lot, because it felt overwhelming because I had a lot of debt. I had six-figure student loan debt. Then I started reading.
Jaques went from everything you just heard to $200,000 of student loans being forgiven, $44,000 of IRS debt that she cleared herself, from $1,000 to 5 months worth of an emergency fund, being able to then increase her credit score over 800 and relocate her and her toddler daughter to Panama. If any of this is interesting to you, want to get some results like this, like I get my students day in and day out, there's a unique opportunity for you to speak specifically with me to look at what's going on in your journey and give you insight on what to do next in order to make your dreams a reality. So go ahead and use the link in the description so that we can find a time to connect. The biggest question everyone is going to have is, how did you do it? All of these really amazing wins in quite a short amount of time, to be honest. And I would like for us to, before we dive into that, kind of take a step back to before you got focused in your financial journey. I think you said it was about 2022, 2021, or something like that, where things changed for you. But so for you, what was it that you were struggling with? What challenges were you facing before you got focused in your financial journey?
Oh man, I feel like money was just coming in and going out. Literally, I was living paycheck to paycheck. That's exactly what I was doing, living
Okay.
paycheck to paycheck. And I was like, my job, I was not feeling, but I couldn't leave. I had no way to leave. Zero. I was like, you're stuck. You have to work because you don't have any savings. You don't have anything. Like you've been living your whole life paycheck to paycheck. Everything that came in went out. And I was talking to one of my coworkers, and she was like, "Oh, well, you got to make your exit plan. Like, you need to have an exit plan. You need to have that fun, like the FU fun. Like, if you want to leave." She's like, "That's what she was building up to." I was like, "Huh, never ever thought about it." So this is how I got introduced to Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
So started out with Dave Ramsey. Now, I didn't agree with everything Dave Ramsey did, but it was a good basis to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So started with my $1,000 emergency fund. Started paying down debt. The whole, like, some of the things I didn't agree with because it was really restrictive for me. So I found my own plan in that. Um, but just making that mindset, like, wow, no, you need to save money. You need to live on less. You can still live your life, but don't blow all your money. Like, you have no FU fund. You have nothing. You, like, these people make you mad. You can just go home, vent about it, and then still have to come back the next day. We didn't want that anymore. Like, this is a cycle we didn't want that anymore. So that's when I got really real about looking into investing and saving and things like that, because I wasn't, honestly, my 403, I worked for in higher education. So fortunately, my job contributes to my 403B automatically.
Mm.
I don't, nothing. So I got lucky right there. I'm not doing nothing because I'm not doing nothing additional. They're just contributing because I don't know no better. I'm sitting there like, why am I putting my money right here for? When? Yeah, that I can't touch. Yeah, no. Didn't know. Didn't understand it. Did not understand it for the life of me. My fault. But they were contributing money on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So they did that. Perfect. Once I started realizing, then I started contributing a little bit, really analyzing my finances and what I was doing, how I was spending my money, monitoring. I'm like, wow, you spend a lot of money eating out.
Mm.
Like a lot. So just bringing all that in, coming back, and it was like, okay, let's reel this back in, cooking more. Hey, I can hang out with my friends, but we don't always have to go somewhere with these nice fancy restaurants. It doesn't have to be every week. It could
Mm-hmm.
be once a month. Um, so, and then then I started reading more, listening to podcasts, learning more about how people manage their finances and the things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a huge interest in, like, okay, I can do this. I can, because it felt overwhelming because I had a lot of debt. I had six-figure student loan debt.
Mm.
I made a mistake with the IRS. So
Mm.
that was a nice hefty debt. So having that, and then I still had a private student loan. Now I was on track for the public service loan forgiveness program.
Mm.
Um, So that's why I stayed in higher education. And then Biden changed then I refinanced, not refinanced, consolidated my loans. And
Okay.
then the clock started all over. So my
Mm.
10 years, whatever I was at, it started all over. So none of them payments counted. So I had to start all
Wow.
over. So I was in my 5-year plan. I was in after that, I was like 5 years in. I was like, I have 5 more years to pay down. I mean, not to pay down, but to work in higher education, pay down the government, pay down my credit cards, pay off everything else. So I was making this
Mm.
5-year plan to do this. Then Biden, whatever he did, that temporary PSLF, anything you did before your consolidation, kicked that in, knocked it all out, only had 6 months left after he did that. 6 months. So my 5-year plan turned into a 6-month plan for that. Then, so to knock out 6 figures in private student loan debt, okay.
You must
Picked
have
up
been
the second.
dancing. I don't know.
Yes,
You log in
there's
and you're
like
like,
tears. It's kind of like this is surreal. Like this was surreal. Like that was just so surreal to have that. So I still was on my plan to pay down the IRS and
hmm
pay down on my credit cards because all this stuff just started happening. Then I realized my skill set, because sometimes you feel, I don't know, afraid to use your skills or charge people for things that you know. So
mm,
I am a programmer, but like a PLC developer. My skill set, people were paying me $75 plus an hour
mm,
to contract and help them. So I started doing it. That literally pushed me out of debt so
mm,
fast. But I felt like I was putting all my money towards debt. So I
mm,
didn't finish off one. I did my private student loans. I have a 2-year plan right now, but I felt like I was throwing everything at debt. So paying off the $40,000 plus in the IRS, paying off all my credit cards, any debt that I had was done within 2 years,
mm.
less than 2 years, by me working multiple jobs though. So it was a lot. So I did have to make some sacrifices. So I did have to work a lot, but I did get there. And it feels so freeing because now I have my emergency fund. Now I have my
Mm.
life set up in a whole different direction where I don't have my FU fund yet, but I do have a cushion. Like if I don't, like when I gave birth to my daughter, they were like, oh, you only can be out for 6 weeks. And I was like, oh, no, I have enough money to be out for a little bit longer than that. They was like, well, it's unpaid. I'm like, oh, okay. Knowing
Mm.
that I set myself up to do that. So, um,
Yeah, that's just the synopsis. We're gonna go and break it down a little bit piece by piece because I know, you joined our community last year and you had been listening to the podcast you had mentioned. And, I would love to know like what about the podcast was helpful? I think you mentioned like it was helping you shift your mindset and things like that. But like what was helpful about listening to podcasts and things like that helped spark you, really getting serious about your finances?
honestly, it was the mind shift. It was how to think differently about money,
Mm,
how to think about not just money, but like my mental, like how was I thinking about things? And I was like,
mhm,
maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong. I was kind of making it hard on myself because I
mm,
got a little bit far, but I'm sitting there like, this just seems really restricted. Like I felt restricted. Like I
yeah,
did. Felt really restricted to everything that I was doing. And so by listening, I was like, okay, well, you know what? You're doing things. It may be a
mhm,
little slow at sometimes because you
mm,
did so much so fast. So
yeah,
let's
yeah,
take a
yeah,
different pace so that we can continue because I was getting burnt out. And I was like,
mhm,
no, I'm making all this money and working these jobs. I'm about to blow. I'm about to have so much fun. I'm like literally I'm about to buy everything. I'm going on all these trips because I spent so much time. And I was like,
yeah,
but that was not the route to go.
mhm,
So so I had to come back and like, okay, how can we make this mind shift? And
yeah,
just listening to you, and I was like, okay, let's think differently about it's not just about money, it's about our growth and development as well into
mhm,
this realm of learning about how to spend money and how to save and how to still live your life.
mhm, mhm. You know,
So yeah.
it's funny because I know that when we were talking last year, you had mentioned like you've got a toddler and you wanted to travel the world with her. You wanted to make sure that you could be present, that you could provide experiences. And, that really seemed like it was a huge part of your motivation. And so I recall, when after you joined, we got your plan set up and everything like that. You ended up, starting to max out your 403B. I remember the first time you did it, and then you got on our weekly accountability meetings, and you're like, it's a lot of money to to send off. But now you've like maxed out your 403B for the last year and some change, right? So now it's like clockwork. You don't think about it like you did before. Um, how is it that you've been able to be, I guess, consistent is the best way. You know what I mean? Like over the past year, it hasn't been perfect.
Mhm.
You talked about, eating out and things like that. We'll talk about the eating out because I think a lot of people struggle with that. But like, how have you been able to make these strides over the long term? You've been able to make bigger goals, even though it's life, I'm sure, was happening,
Oh,
as you
so
were
it was
working through
definitely happening for me
that.
in so many ways. One of the things about the 403B part was I looked at it and I was like, if I contribute this amount of money, literally I would go on investor.gov and do like the analysis for like the compounding interest and how your savings rate would go and how much money I would have, like how much money do I need to retire. And I was like, okay, you have to leave this money here. You have to put this money here so you can have enough money to retire because I was behind the 8 ball. Like I'm in my 40s. I'm behind the 8 ball. I didn't start. I literally started in my late 30s. So I felt like my only option was to start maxing out my account.
Mhm.
So in my mind, that's the only thing I have. That's the only option there is. So I stuck with that. Now, did I have to cut back on other things? Because eating out, you want to be social. You want to go hang out with your friends all the time. And yeah, or I was just being lazy. But then that's when I started meal planning. So once I started meal planning and meal prepping, actually that was way easier and I felt better
Mm.
mentally and physically. So, and then when I started feeling better mentally and physically, eating out was just like, I'll go hang out with you guys, but I may eat before we go and just sit there and socialize because I felt like the food wasn't doing me any. I became sluggish
Mm.
and I wasn't as attentive. So
So
that
then, because I know, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We probably talk about health stuff like just as much as we talk about money, right? Because we believe that wealth starts with wellness. If you're not doing okay, personally, if you're not figuring out how to center your wealth building journey around taking good care of yourself, like you mentioned, you're going to burn out. And then what are you going to do? You're going to, go wild and live your best life because you feel like, you deserve it or you've just been restricting for so long. And so, I love to hear how, yes, you recognize that your spending in the area of eating out was maybe not aligned with your vision. Because I remember you were on one of our calls and you brought it up, right? And you're like, I'm spending X amount a week on eating out. I think it was like 4 figures or something like that a week on eating out, and the automatic answer wasn't, "Oh, you have to stop." It's, "Let's have a conversation about this." Like, why? Are you eating things that your body likes or no? Are you, do you have a lot that you're juggling right now? Is there a way to find a happy medium? And so I think a lot of the time in the personal finance space, so many people are just saying like, "This is what you have to do," and they're giving out this plan that of course, I think to some extent works for people, but I think there's nothing like being able to talk to someone about your specific journey and the unique factors that play a role for you. You know what I mean?
right.
What's that like for you to have support where you can like ask questions, have a conversation, work through your strategy?
So when it started, when we had that conversation, it just dawned on me that this was not to say it was wrong. It was
Hmm.
convenient for me. It was convenient to go out every meal because I'm working. I'm working all day. I work from home. I have a toddler. It's just me. I'm a single mom. So eating out was just the most convenient thing I could do for myself. But on the second hand, you're sitting there like, why am I always tired and sluggish? Like literally, I just felt so out of it all the time. Like all I wanted to do was just sit on the couch and eat and just watch TV. like after a long day and not really doing things that I should do, like
Mm.
being more active with my daughter or just going outside and taking a walk because I just be just so lazy. But then I was trying to learn about like, and then somebody's like, well, hey, how about you try to meal prep? Like, I mean, just try to eat out less. Try to eat out less. And let's try to meal prep. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can make a menu. Tried it. Hey, it wasn't that bad meal prepping. I don't meal prep for the week. Some people do. I meal prep on Sunday and I meal prep on Wednesday. It was not bad. Take a couple of hours, make food. Even my daughter was involved sometimes. And so that was something that we could do together as well. But I think the thing that I truly realized was starting to listen to my body when I ate certain things. So like I can't like gluten, I love bread, but it is not for me. It is definitely not for me. Like starting to listen to my body. When I have to get gassy or stomach pains, I'm like, okay, you know what? You just ate that. That is not sitting well with you. Like, okay, let's cut this out. Dairy does not sit well with you. Let's cut this out. Let's find alternate
Mm-hmm.
foods that you can cook and eat, even for my daughter. So once I started doing that, a lot more clarity came into my life as well. Like I wasn't fatigued. I wasn't as tired. I started being more active. I started losing weight because I started being more active. I was like, well, hey, I can go for a walk now. Probably we should start going to the gym. And that's why I started implementing going to the gym and yoga. I didn't do nothing overly strenuous. I worked
Mm.
out 4 days a week, 1 hour, 4 hours a week. But it was something I like to do. Strength training and hot yoga. Lost 2 pant sizes, just doing something that I actually didn't mind doing and like to do. Um, so with that just came a lot of clarity and allowed me to think better, like just the haze of fogginess of being lazy, or I felt lazy. I was not
Mm.
lazy because we have to change our mindset about how we talk to ourselves. I
You
was
you
tired.
got in there before I got in there. You
Yeah,
sound
right.
that.
Like I was just tired from working all the time. And it contributed to me not doing things. So what I learned in my day was to get up, stretch breaks. Like when my daughter's watching Mickey Mouse, they have stretch breaks. I take stretch breaks. We do jumping jacks together. Like we do jumping jacks, run around the circles, get my energy back up. But take a break from what you're doing. And then I have all these ideas and goals in my head. Hmm. Yeah, no, time blocking is a thing that helped. It literally is. I wake up every morning. I have a planner with time and what do I want to accomplish today? How can I accomplish what I most need to today? Time block everything. Now, schedules do change. I write everything in pencil, but that helped. I will get so much more done instead of sitting there in the morning like, oh, what I'm gonna do today? No, 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 no. Pre-planning my day helped a lot too. So I just felt like planning my workouts, planning meal planning the days that I'm gonna pay my bills, like planning my budget revisit. So planning helped a lot too. Just to sit there. It's like it doesn't have to be forever, like hours on hours, but just like 30 minutes. Hey, how are you doing on your spending this week? How are you looking on your water intake this week? Because I struggle with drinking water. Still do. I still do, but we're working on it.
You and me both. It's forever. I think that's one of those things that just rotates. You're like, I need to stay hydrated. Um, so one of the other really cool things I think that was a byproduct of your focus in this last, year or so, over a year now, was like your credit score skyrocketed, right? You was in the 800s club,
I
but
am.
were you focused on increasing your credit score? Like, were you doing anything in particular? Were you on like a credit score change your life situation? Or was this kind of like, this is what happened because of the other things that you were doing?
It happened because of everything else. I was not focused on my credit score at all. Now, my credit score wasn't horribly bad when I started.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the 700s. So it wasn't horribly bad, even with six-figure debt. But after like everything happened, just so happened, I was like, what? I am in the 800s. Can you believe this? I was like, I wonder if I can. I said, can somebody hit 850 for real? Like, I want to see if I can hit 850 now. But it's up there, but I don't know if it'll hit 850. But still, it's good. And I don't really use credit because my whole life is budgeted. Okay, let me
Mhm.
lie. So I use my credit cards for points, but I pay them off weekly. So I use credit
And
responsibly for me.
nice.
It works for
And
me.
I love it because, you mentioned starting one plan, but realizing maybe it was a bit restrictive for you. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I hear from so many women all over the world is like they want to move forward and make progress financially, but they also want to live their life. And being able to find that balance, being able to say like, yes, you can do both. You're going to have to become intentional. You're going to want to become strategic so that you can fit it all in. I know that recently we were talking because little do y'all know, okay, Jaques has relocated to Panama, okay, with her daughter for about a year or so right now that we know of. But, I know that you mentioned coming back to this plan to exit, one of your jobs. How is it that you have been able to kind of strategize, get back clear on, what has to happen in order for you to get to the point where you can eliminate one of your jobs, have more free time and flexibility?
I'm talking to you. This is the whole mindset. Think about, well, it's more so just the questions. Hey, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? Like, because I feel burnt out, but I feel like I have to work two jobs to maintain my life. And that's not accurate. Like, what type of life are you trying to live here? First, let's ask that question. What are you trying to live? All I honestly want to do is travel the world. And I know I still have to work at this point because of choices I made in the past. I'm okay with that. But the work that I do, I want it to be something that I actually want to do.
Hmm.
So, um, strategically, I think about um, how can I, so we both said, I work two jobs. So how can I get rid of them? Because I'm sitting here looking like, and I sit and did a budget because the only thing I need to pay off is my other student loan, my
Hmm.
private student loan. I was like, oh, well, at this rate, I think we discussed, I want to save a year of my expenses before I quit and pay off my other student loan. In 2 years, I can make both of those happen. So I have a 2 year exit plan. So financially, all the numbers worked out. I'm sitting there like and I have to put my daughter in private school out here. So that costs, even with that added expense, all the numbers worked out. I was overthinking it because when I sat down and did the numbers, I was like, basically, I was already doing most of the stuff anyway. So it just wasn't going into this account. I'm looking at my emergency fund account and I'm like, I only put X amount of dollars in here and I need to put X amount, this amount. But I have this brokerage account. I'm just putting money in just because. Oh,
Hmm.
combine it together. In 2 years, you'll be done. So,
Voila.
right. I was like, so that was just one of my things that make me feel comfortable. Like
Hmm.
leaving one of them, just knowing that I had a year's salary, just sitting somewhere. It's in a high yield savings account, making a little bit of money. So, but that would make me feel extra comfortable knowing that.
Hmm.
So that is, yeah, just
I think
knowing that I could get rid of one job is great.
I'm sure it feels good because you can see the end in sight instead of feeling like it's never ending, that you're just going to be stuck, right? I heard something recently and they were saying like essentially to have to work is like slavery. To need to work is employment, but to get to work is freedom. And so it's like you have been systematically pulling out of like, well, I have to work. And it's like, okay, no, I'm not. You've got you went from $1,000 saved to 5 months worth of, savings, right? You have a little bit more leeway. You need to work right now because you're building that retirement up for yourself, the larger emergency fund, right? That's you being employed and you're slowly moving toward getting to work and do whatever you want, which is that freedom that we're all looking for. And I think you being able to eliminate the $200,000 of student loans, right, which I would love for you to kind of explain, um, it helps make everything else easier. Because it sounds like in your story, you were discouraged, you started getting focused, you started learning and looking out for information. And in that process, there's almost like a spiritual part of this that is a little bit difficult to explain because it's like as you get focused, things are being
Stuff,
orchestrated beyond beyond your capability to explain. So I
stuff
would love to
happens.
I would love to explain, like, how did you get rid of $200,000 when you thought it was gonna take 5, 10 years and it ended up happening in, like, 6 to 12 months? Like, how'd that happen?
Right. And so research, because some people, we do not research how we can get out of debt and the programs. So what I was looking for was programs that were available. So the public service loan forgiveness program was available to me as long as I worked in uh, the higher education or public service. Now, again, these are low paying jobs. So to be in a low paying job for 10 years, not fun when I could literally double my salary and work in corporate, but I like what I do. So I
Mm,
was like, okay, we're going to make a sacrifice for 10 years so we can be done with this.
mhm,
That was the
mhm,
goal. Not understanding the things that we were doing with that. Because again, when I was consolidating my loans, they was like, oh, you need to put all your loans together. I was on the income based repayment.
mm,
But once you did that, the clock started all over.
mm,
So that's when Biden had implemented that temporary and was like, well, you know what? All those payments that you made, that people made during that time before consolidation, they count now.
mm,
Oh, I hurry up and applied. Like literally, I hurried up and applied for that because he only had, I think, 6 months to a year, whatever it was, to apply for this program to get this done. I was harassing all my jobs because you have to go get your employment verification. Like literally all my old jobs. I need you to say how long I worked here.
right.
I need this by this date so they can, yes. It was some hoops to jump through. It was definitely some hoops to jump through. And then when they got all the paperwork in and they updated my account and said I only had to make 6 more payments, which was 6 months. I literally, yes, tears came down my face, literally. Because it was just like that's the universe working for you because you were already, I had a plan. I had a 10-year plan. But I was faithful to my plan. I was still
Mhm,
going towards it. I was working it. Happened. Like even with my IRS debt, um, I was working my plan. The IRS, you don't ever want to owe the IRS. You know, I mean, the amount of I was starting to cry the amount of fees because I didn't understand the mistake that I made those many years ago.
mm.
The amount, like they were literally charging me $500 in penalties and interest additional a month.
Oof.
That made me so sad. So, so sad. So sad. I was like, but I didn't understand it because I was paying on it for years. But when I started coming to my journey, I'm like, wait, I'm paying all this extra money to the IRS. Like you literally are paying them $500 a month. You're never going to get out of the cycle.
Mm,
When we get out of this, again, that's why I started working 2 jobs. I mean, a second job so that I can throw money at them. But just so happened during the pandemic, prices of houses raised dramatically for some odd reason. Opportunity to sell. Not that I sold my house just to sell it. I was moving in anyway, so that helped. But I was on a plan. I was strategic about what I was doing. I was paying down my debt. I picked up a second job. Just so happened something happened in this that allowed me to immediately take a lump sum of cash and pay the rest of it off.
mm,
Before
mm.
that, I had already paid off my car. Like literally, I was already like literally trying to get out of debt. Like everything I could do to get out of debt. So I just feel like some things when you are working your plan, like doing the things you're supposed to do, stuff just happened to make it go a little bit faster for me. Except for my
Yeah.
private loans. This has not gone any faster. But I think as I'm diligently paying it down now, maybe something might happen. I might just get a lump sum of cash somewhere and we could be done in a year.
Who
Who
knows?
knows?
Who knows? Okay, you getting ready to start this business. That who knows? You know what I mean? Like, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But like, it's funny because when people used to ask me like how I accomplished some of my financial goals. Yes, there was some strategy and whatnot, of course. There was mindset shifts, but then there was like, I kind of was like spiritually helped along the way, So it's like if we don't mention that piece, we're not really talking about the full picture. And so I love it. Like you already were working a plan, but if you weren't working a plan, if you were avoiding your finances, not doing any research, you wouldn't have known that there was an opportunity to see if you could take advantage of it. And so I think like just giving attention and time and energy to your journey will reveal opportunities that you could have never have even made up yourself. There was an opportunity for you to be able to sell your home, which was in alignment with you moving anyway. Boom, you have this lump sum of cash that if you have a plan, then you can filter your decisions through your plan to say, what do I do with these funds, as opposed to no plan? Well, let's do whatever. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with how someone spends money, but you have to ask yourself whether it's in alignment with the vision that you have for your life. And so it sounds like you've been able to have a clear filter of like, this is what and how we do things, because you want to be living your best life, traveling the world with your kid and making sure that y'all are, taken care of and don't have to worry so much about money. And so generational wealth is something that can only be accomplished as you cover yourself first. So you can't cover your kids until you take care of your own finances. And so I love that as you've been systematically kind of checking the boxes of what you have to do in your own personal finance journey, you've also been able to like establish your estate plan, something that so few people execute on, having a will or estate plan that's up to date, because you literally can't create generational wealth unless you have something in place to ensure that your assets get passed down. And so it's just amazing because literally in the span of like a year and a few months, would you agree your life is like unrecognizable from what it was last year?
I am telling you. Never would have thought any of this because literally when I told you I'm on a 10-year plan. I'm like, okay, well, after I finish all this stuff, then I'll be able to move out the country and we'll have enough money saved and we can do this, this, and this, and we can do all these things. And but I think because I made a plan and was working towards something, that
Mhm.
the universe just responded in kind. And I was like, okay,
Right.
you are working towards this. You are actively, you got this lump sum of money and did not blow it. Good job. Good job. Didn't want to pay down no debt, but good job. Like,
Oh my goodness. Now, before we dive into, the work that you get to do here moving forward, I know that so many women struggle with spending, like whether it's online shopping or just like their spending is misaligned with what they want to do in their life. How is it that you were able to, because if I remember correctly, Amazon and you were like this. How is it that you have been able to spend more mindfully and, in alignment with your plan?
so it turns out I was just buying stuff because either I was bored
Uh-huh.
or I thought I needed something. And I don't know. I think I was reading something or listening to something. And I was like, what purpose does this serve in my life if I buy this? Like literally, what what is the goal of having this new thing when you have this that works perfectly fine, or you just see something new and you just want to try it? Because that was
Mm,
one of my things. Like I would pick up hobbies just to pick up hobbies and try all different type of stuff. Like, oh, screen printing looks fun. Let me buy all the stuff for screen printing. And I was like, not really. Put it to the side. Okay, go sell that. Get your money back. Go sell it and get some money back. But I think it was more so, how does this how is this in alignment with your future right now?
mhm,
Do you want to spend this money on this item or do you want to save it?
mm.
And most of the time it would come down to, I really don't need this. It won't serve any purpose. And I'd rather save the money and invest it because I would get a better return. Because I wanted to declutter my life as well. So Amazon, so the first thing I did with Amazon, I took my credit card off there. So step number one, and this just worked for me, it was a mental thing. I literally have to get an Amazon gift card and put money on there, and that's the only way I can buy anything off of Amazon. So if I only had $100, only could buy $100 worth of stuff on Amazon. That was my first step, literally, because I still loved Amazon, but it was seriously a mental thing. And then when I didn't have money, then I had to wait because with my credit card being on there, it was just automatic. I just press a button and
Mm.
buy it. For waiting, I was like, well, now I gotta go put money. I was like, oh, I want that, but I don't have no money on my thing. And you're gonna stick to not using your credit card, right? We're gonna do that. You're gonna be, yes, we're gonna do that. So, all right, do you really feel like driving to the store to get an Amazon gift card? No, not right now. Huh, days pass, forget about it. Just forget about the whole item altogether. Like it was sitting in my car. I'm like, I guess I really didn't need that. Like seriously, like
Mhm.
so it was it was a process. It didn't happen immediately, but it was a mind shift eventually into stop for me to stop spending because I had to physically go to the store to get an Amazon gift card.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
fact that I stuck to that helped me to buy less.
I love that you were creative. You just have to, like, we talk a lot about experiments. You just have to experiment with different things that are going to help you to be able to be consistent with your future self. You want to be debt free. You want to, live your life however with flexibility. Like, how can you start becoming that version of yourself now, even if it's in a small way? And then that starts to grow and grow and grow and grow. And the life that you envision for yourself in the future becomes the life that you start living today in some way. It just
Mhm.
continues to amplify. And so I love that all of these things, right? But from getting serious about your finances to being able to rid yourself of $200,000 of student loans, making the choice to sell your home when you move to paying off, the 44,000 from the IRS, going from $1,000, emergency fund to 5 months worth, being able to max out your 403b, get your estate plan in order, your credit score 800 club. Like people would be like, how in the heck is this? But there's something so significantly important that takes place when you make a decision. And I think at the end of the day, some of what you were saying was like, I have no choice. That means you've made a decision. You've cut off all other options. You're like, this is what it has to be. um, that something special happens when that's the case. I know that we've talked, over the course of the last year or so, and you've talked about wanting to serve and wanting to educate other people and being able to learn how to do what you do because you know that it's in high demand and there's a way for people to create financial freedom and flexibility in their lives through the type of work that you know how to do. I would love for you to share, like what benefits that, I mean, obviously you literally work remotely. You have two jobs, so she's not doing nothing, y'all. So
Yeah.
but you don't have to have two jobs. You could have one. Um
Yes.
but like what benefits, tell us the title and what benefits you feel like come along with that position.
Okay. So one of my jobs, I am a programmer analyst. I am a PL/SQL developer. I work in higher education. This field is so many schools out there, and the field is not a lot of people know how to do it. Like I have recruiters reaching out to me all the time, like all the time. I don't have the bandwidth to do everything, but all the time. And people will be like, oh, well, that's not an in-demand career. Well, it depends on what you're trying to do because I charge right now $120 an hour. So I'm a PL/SQL developer, and I'm just sitting there like, so there is money in the field. There is money in doing the things that people say, oh, that's not in demand, but it's a small subset of people who know how to do it. But the schools really need help. So learning SQL, I've helped people like project managers. They up their career just by learning the basics of how to do SQL development. I literally help them progress in their career to get higher paying jobs because they have an additional skill set. Oh, not only are you an IT project manager, but you can write queries and pull data. Oh, okay. Like literally, just something as basic as that. Even in your job. Like I feel like everybody should know this, but it depends on what type of job you're in. Like if you have the opportunity to have access to information that you can query, just learning the basics and being able to retrieve information and show people, hey, this is the data, this is how we can use it. And that is really important for people to move, some people to move forward in their career and help out their organization. So that is one thing that I do. Now, on the other end, I'm an associate director of enterprise applications, and I oversee an IT department. I'm still a developer on some token, But as I progress up, now I get to oversee people and oversee a department and manage an institution and manage how we're growing and doing things in the direction that we're moving in. I truly love what I do, and I still feel like there's a lot of opportunities for people to get into this realm. It's a small realm, but there's so many colleges and universities out there. It, I, I feel like if people really looked into it, they was like, huh, this is something that we can do. This is something that I can do. Like, let me just learn it. Let me just learn the basics. Let me see how
Mm.
this can help me progress in my career. Even just learning the basics and see how it just helps you build as a your skill set. It's a small skill set, but it will help you in so many ways. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know that from watching your journey and the conversations we've had, having certain flexibility when it comes to working with educational system as far as like the time off that you're able to get with like their alignment of their schedule and calendar, the seasonality of it that also has a tendency to shift and ebb and flow. And then, like you mentioned, the freedom that can come along with having a skill set that's in high demand that you can then leverage to be able to, depending on your goals, almost the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? Like you said, you choose to work in education, but who's to say you don't work in education and then you decide to go wherever you want to go? You know what I mean?
Seriously, because I know people who left the educational realm and they've doubled their income because they're in corporate America with the
Mhm,
basic skill set. Sometimes you need to learn a little bit more things, but sometimes when I look at job, like some people get thrown off by um, when they look at a job and they're like, oh, it has all this stuff on there. Literally, I had one job, I knew like three things on there, and it was like, oh, we'll teach you the rest. Literally, like because it depends on how you come in. And I was like, well, I know X, Y, Z, and I can do this. And it was like, oh, well, we'll teach you the rest because this was a major thing. I didn't even know it. Learned it on the job. They was like, if you can do all the rest of the stuff, we'll teach you how to do this. And people just knock themselves out. I'm like, oh well, can't do any of that. So I'm like, but I shoot for the stars sometimes. So I'm like, well, we're just gonna apply anyway.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
that's again negotiating for yourself. I was afraid. I was like, oh well, I only make this much. I really shouldn't say this. Like I just started shooting for the stars when I asked for my salary, literally, and let them come down. Literally, like I was afraid to even charge like my hourly rate for what I was doing. I was charging $75, and then
mhm,
somebody was like, "You could probably charge more." I was like, "Could I?"
mhm.
Next job, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, my rate is 120. All right, just send us an invoice." They didn't even bat an eye. Nothing. Said nothing. Like that price is normal. So my $75 was undercharging. That's how I felt now. If you
Right.
thought 120 is just okay.
You learn a lot, you know what I mean? By, like you said, putting yourself out there, shooting for the stars and being okay with like seeing what could come back and figuring it out. It's also a part of that process and being able to maximize your income, right, is huge because you really can't make these huge strides in your journey until you are making more money than you need to live on. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a very basic fundamental thing. If you aren't making enough money to live on, you don't have cash flow beyond your, you know, necessary budget, then you can't save. You can't pay down the debt faster. So then that means that your focus is how to make more money. Right now, you have the opportunity to learn about a skill set and industry that's underserved and needs more people to learn how to help and solve a problem, but also be compensated appropriately for it. And so I would love for you to maybe describe like who's the perfect person to reach out to you and how they can contact you if they want to have a conversation or just learn more about this field.
Oh, yeah. So people who are interested in Oracle databases, because that's what I focus mainly on, Oracle databases in higher education. So even if you're like a career changer or you have the opportunity to have access to this information, because sometimes I get people like that, hey, I have access to a database in Word. Can you help me do X, Y, and Z? Like, is this how I can learn? And I can show you how to leverage that, and you can become a valuable asset at work while you're still working there, like, and without just learning the basics. So somebody who's really interested in Oracle, even if you're just starting from scratch or you just researched it already, PL development is the the next level of it. And then you can always reach me by email, jaquesmiller23@gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody about how to get into it, how to learn, provide some resources just to get your feet wet to see if this is something that you really want to do.
She's in Panama, y'all, living her life,
Um,
still getting these checks. Okay, I'm like, maybe I need to email you and figure. So yeah, anyone who's serious about learning more, you already have access to a database. You're already kind of interested in learning how to advance your career, maybe in this area. Um, Definitely take this opportunity to connect so that you can just learn what your options could be and get information, because it's very possible. I would say it's very, very, very possible to go from where you are in your life, in your career, in your mindset, in your journey to an unrecognizable life for you in the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years if you get serious and you focus. And so I would love for you, as we wrap up here, to share like a word of encouragement. Someone's struggling in their financial journey, trying to figure out how how to, build wealth for their kids and their family. They want to be able to take them on trips. They want to be able to enjoy their lives, but they haven't figured out how to do that. You know what I mean? They're making good money, but they're overspending. They're spending willy-nilly or whatever. Like, what would you say almost to yourself 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe at your lowest moment?
as I look back at it, make a decision. Make a decision to stay where you are at or make a decision to change your life because that's all it is right now. I made a decision that I was not going to stay in this cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. I said, this is not it. Who wants to live like this? No, we're not living like this anymore. And once I made that decision and made a plan, and the plan can change because it does. It doesn't have to be hardcore. Like I have to stick to this budget category. Only can spend $500 on food because that does not happen. But be flexible and be kind to yourself too. So, but make a decision to know that you want to make a change in your life and that this is possible. Because I would have never thought it. I have to, when I sit and talk to Jacinth, I just sit here and be like, wow, I've really done a lot. And I don't think about it, but I've really done a lot because I made a decision to change. I made a budget. I said, I'm not going to not do this because if I don't, I can't meet my goal. I can't live here. I can't go outside and enjoy the sun like I want to every single day. I can't hop on a plane with my daughter when I want to. So it was just making a decision that you want to change your life. Make that plan, execute it,
Mm.
have a support group because support was really important. That was really important to me. By myself, it was not going. Support group that helped a lot. Bounce ideas off of people, but literally just make the decision that you want to change your life.
Oh, so, 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 so good. So simple, yet so important. And it's literally my pleasure, and it feels like a privilege to be able to support students like you, star students. You are literally one of my star students, Jaques, and I'm grateful that you would allow me to join your journey and just cheer you on and, help support you in being accountable to yourself. Because at the end of the day, as a mom, right, we both have toddlers. Um, Gosh, it almost makes me emotional. I just want more women to feel like they can raise their kids the way they want to. And it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. You've made strides in the last year or so. You still have a 2-year plan that you're working through. And a lot of the internet will tell you, like, make $1 million in 10 minutes. This is like a lot of like very quick microwave solutions to things. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, yeah, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. You're gonna have to come up with a plan, be flexible because the plan will likely change. Like, do it for the long haul, but the reward, I can only imagine like you and your daughter going to the beach or you and your daughter. Like, it gives me goosebumps to think about it. I'm so happy for you to be able to have this experience. And it's just the beginning. Like, you thought it was gonna be 10 years till you
10
could leave.
years. Yes. I thought it was gonna be 10 years. I did. I made it. It was a 10-year plan. It was a 10-year plan.
That's crazy. So yeah, thank y'all for sticking around to this point. If you have, make sure that you share this with someone else to keep them encouraged. Let us know in the comments what takeaways you have, what questions you might have about her journey, and reach out to her if you want to learn more about taking your career to the next level and increasing the freedom and flexibility that you have access to in your life. Jaques, thank you again. Such a pleasure. We are thankful and grateful that you're willing to also share. And we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you.